people thought by meditating at the center of a pyramid they can enhance their cognitive abilities. The pyramid is actually related to the Earth, harmonically coupled in proportion, which we'll find out more about later. But it's the geometry that's really important about it. That kind of relates it to complex harmonics and much of what we do in music and also in electrical engineering. There's a lot of rumors out there that this is actually an electrostatic cavity shape capable of containing negative ions at its center. There's a lot of research being done on this, how to actually harness the negative ions at the center of the pyramid to create what's called the pyramid battery. And we're going to discuss a little bit how the Great Pyramid is related to the Earth. Now, the Earth is host to many pyramids, hundreds if not thousands of them. You should look up Chinese pyramids and Russian pyramids, there are a lot out there. But the pyramid is from the Greek word pira, which means fire, and mid from miden, which means in the middle. And pyramids employ a knowledge of astronomy, but also geometry as well. Geo referring to the Earth, and metri referring to measurement. The hieroglyph perneter, attributable to the pyramid, is perneter, which meant house of nature, interestingly. And the Great Pyramid and the Earth are actually harmonically coupled in proportion, and also in their mass, in terms of magnitude, but not order. They also face, or the pyramid is aligned cardinally, and also the location of the pyramid is at the geocentric center of the Earth's landmass, which is at the Giza Plateau in Egypt. Now, a little into the geometry and complex harmonics, connection. Kepler's triangle is actually having a base of 1, a height of square root phi, and a hypotenuse of phi. And phi is actually the golden ratio, which is the Fibonacci number. Johannes Kepler determined that this triangle actually permeates throughout nature, but also could be used to determine the geometry of celestial bodies. So that's in a Platonic solid kind of, Copernican, model of the universe. And the way we determine or derive Kepler's triangle is through squaring the circle. Geometrical techniques, so if you were to take the Earth as a circle and find a square whose perimeter is equal to the circle's circumference, what you get is a relationship for the radius to half the base. So a relationship between that circle and that square. And that happens to be square root phi exactly, or 4 divided by pi as an approximation the Egyptians used. And if you actually take the radius of the moon plus the radius of the Earth at its polar region and divide it by the radius of the Earth at the equator, you can do this yourself, you actually do get square root phi. And that's what Kepler's trying to talk about. That's what Newton knew. And if you ask me about Newton later, I'll explain how he derived his gravitational constant with it. Now, if you divide the two acute angles in the pyramid, you actually get a pretty good approximation for E. E is Euler's number. It's used in music and geometry, I guess, also electricity, and it follows the laws of complex harmonics, like architecture in general. As Goethe said, architecture is frozen music, and the Great Pyramid's frequency is actually equal to its angle of inclination, so 52 hertz. And sound EM waves at that frequency will provide coupling. Constructive interference will also step up power. And just looking at some of the theories out there on the Great Pyramid's electromagnetic properties, a lot of electrical engineers have kind of understood, especially actually chemical engineers at MIT, have discovered that the outside casing stones were not actually natural limestone at all, and that they were actually fabricated with a geopolymer that covered its surface. That could actually contribute perhaps to the capacitive abilities of the pyramid. Electrical engineers have also found that the north and south shafts in the King's Chamber are actually hydrogen line waveguides optimized for microwave transmissions in the 21 centimeters in width. But Joe Parr, the inventor of the gamma ray transducer, actually tried to show how a pyramid in an alternating magnetic field can create what he called a pinch-off bubble around it, which would essentially block out any EM radiation, and is powered by the microwave and gamma ray transmissions that are natural in our universe. And if we look at the King's Chamber closely, we actually realize that it's the only part of the pyramid that's quartz granite in nature. And quartz is, of course, piezoelectric in nature. And that means kinetic energy can be transmuted into electrical, and it does this through sound, because sound creates pressure, and pressure induces kinetic energy in the crystals embedded in the walls. Now, the cavity resonators, there are 5 cavity resonators above, they actually help step up the power. Why? Because each one is tuned to a different frequency, and if we study this more in detail, we'll find out exactly how the King's Chamber and the 5 slabs above are related. Now, we have the antechamber, which serves as an acoustical filter. It had 3 portcullis slabs that were on rope and pulley, and it actually is used to filter out noise that's coming in from the Grand Gallery. The Grand Gallery is core-belled in nature, so it projects sound upwards, according to acoustical engineers, and also houses 27 holes or slots on each side. Some people believe that it could have housed Helmholtz resonators of some sort, which is the Queen's Chamber. This is what the research is about. This is about how the shape itself could potentially act as not only an ideal antenna, but a capacitor collecting negative ions at its center. There are impurities that exist in the chamber. There's a lot of, evidence that water had somehow been pressurized in there, perhaps creating electrolysis or instigating electrolysis. Water would come through the Nile and actually flow into this chamber. There's also a shaft that goes straight down into the earth, providing that resonant frequency of the earth, the pulse of the earth, whatever they used, in fact, to help sound project itself throughout the pyramid. But just to cut a long story short, hydrogen and oxygen would be produced in the subterranean chamber. Hydrogen would flow to the center of the pyramid, as it's negatively oriented at the center, and hydrogen is positive. And oxygen would head or be burped outwards in a pulse pump manner to the atmosphere, which is positively oriented, oxygen being negative. And evidence on this, we find that actually Werner von Siemens, the technological entrepreneur, had gone to the top of the pyramid in the 18th century and actually went up with a wine glass and some newspaper and created a Leyden jar. He went at the top and actually found that there was electrostatic buildup at the top. Alexander Golub is one of the few who actually has built 40 pyramids across Russia and the post-Soviet Union. And he found that when he was building his first pyramid, the KGB was actually attracted to it because for some reason, there was some sort of standing column or a wave that had actually interrupted their military radar system. So they had gone there midway through construction to investigate. Now, Joe Parr, the inventor of the gamma-ray transducer, as I mentioned before, was the first one, 25 years, studying pyramids, was the first one who actually went up to the top of the pyramid with an ES field meter to try and actually gauge, an understanding of how much, energy we're talking about here. And he actually put together an 11-year solar cycle map that actually would determine when the pyramid has its most effective or is most effective. He actually did more research into shape power, how actually electromagnetic field lines, like a prism, would disperse and diffract light. How does a pyramid actually curve the magnetic field lines of the Earth, to provide, energy at its center. And, coming up, Les Brown, a Canadian researcher, had done research, actually built one in his backyard and did something analog, like he put together, an antenna at the top, put together an antenna at the bottom, and story has it is that when he went and attached a piece of wool to what he found is that he actually was recoiled backwards. There was so much electrostatic buildup or something at the center of the pyramid that in some way or form he was, shocked. This is Flavio Thomas. He industrialized his idea. He was able to actually pull, energy out of the center of a pyramid and power a 12-volt fan. And there are just a lot of people out there who just claim that they figured it out. They know how to harness energy from a pyramid. So, and in terms of data collection, I'll be doing some 3D simulations using an ES field meter and a Gauss meter, as well as an antenna hookup. And so, essentially, what we need to do is investigate, because it's like Einstein said, to condemn without investigation is the height of all ignorance. So what we're trying to do here, what I'm trying to do here, is not be ignorant. Thank you very much.